Aloha. Shabbat Shalom. So I don't know who of you tuned in yesterday to the quarter moon reading, the final quarter moon reading. It was very powerful. It was only a 3-card draw, and 2 of those were major arcana, and one of them was the 4 of Wands. So it was a super powerful reading. Whether or not you saw it, this message will still be relevant. Right now, collectively, we're crossing the bridge of the Hierophant to get to a crossroads where we're going to have to make some important decisions. And ultimately, we come to this point over and over in our lives. We come to these crossroads again and again, and we can only hope that we did our best, crossing that bridge that brought us there, learning all the lessons we can, cultivating all of the wisdom that we can along the way, so that when we ultimately and inevitably approach these crossroads, we are prepared. We are empowered. We are confident in our decision-making skills. And so the collective road that we're on right now is very much the archetypal energy of the Hierophant, which was the card of the bridge yesterday. And the message that comes with this bridge and this challenge, which ultimately becomes a gift, is that it's important to get in touch with our own truth. We're living in a time where everything seems so paradoxical. It is. Ultimately, we live in a reality of polarity. Everything is so paradoxical and confusing, and if we're not centered, if we're not in touch with our heart's compass, we often don't know which way to go. It can be confusing. Who is telling the truth? Who is right? What is right? What is wrong? What's the energy behind all of that? Is our judgment, our perception. That's the thing that really matters. And so we're learning this lesson of the Hierophant right now. We're saying, okay, maybe I need to look at things a little bit differently, because we've been sifting through the dogma, and we've been sifting through the old beliefs, and we've been reprogramming and reprogramming and reprogramming. And we always will be. In one sense, we'll always be adjusting and adapting and evolving, because change is the only constant in life. But at the same time, we have to accept that we have to complete cycles and begin new ones. Otherwise, we're just stagnant. Why are we always just going to keep healing? We have to trust that we're working towards something, and we're ultimately going to be healed in one thing. And yes, it will begin, within the ending of that cycle is the beginning of a new one. Of course, this is, the life cycle is a circle. It's never ending. But the point is, we shouldn't always just be healing something. We should very much believe that that thing that we're working on healing will ultimately be healed. Otherwise, why are we doing it? It's reflecting our doubt in ourselves. It's reflecting our lack of belief in our ability to achieve that very thing that we're striving to achieve. So again, looking at what we've been doing for years now, reprogramming, trying to let go of that which does not serve us, eliminating those old habits that are destructive. But again, coming to this reality right now where everyone around us is telling us to go this way or go that way. It's like the scarecrow in The Wizard of Oz. Which way do I go? Oh, this way. Oh, that way. Well, any way can be the right way. And all paths lead us home. All paths lead us back to the one. There's no other way. But we do have a choice which path to take. We pave the road to get there. So we'll always get there. But how we get there is up to us. So we can manifest crisis after crisis if that's what we create for ourselves, if we create a reality where it is necessary to grow through crisis. This is masochistic. We don't need to do that. We need to reserve our energy so that when those inevitable stressful times come up, we'll have that energy reserved for those spaces. We don't need to create more chaos. There's enough, okay? We can give that up. Thank goodness we can give that up to Source to decide when and how that chaos should manifest. We don't need to maintain a belief that we must struggle always, and that's the only way. That is absolutely not true. And so, as we learn about a new way, as we explore a new way that we can reprogram and actually lock in, a consciousness that works for us as individuals and as a collective society, then we'll be getting somewhere. Then we can open up, yes, to a new cycle, but we'll have elevated in such a way that life just gets easier and more graceful. Okay, so we're looking at a new way of reprogramming. Now it's really time once and for all to get in touch with the truth, which you can only find in your heart. So if you are not connected to that center yet, then everything that you've been doing has just been, it's no wonder you're reprogramming and reprogramming and reprogramming, because until you find that center, the work is not sustained. The work is not sustained. And so, for example, I mentioned yesterday in the reading that when we're observing our thoughts and observing our communications, and we judge something as old paradigm, we should be careful not to so quickly just dismiss it because of this judgment. Oh, well, this is old paradigm, so I'm just gonna throw that out in the garbage. There's truth in all things. You just have to look a little more closely, because while we're so quick to judge something and throw it out, labeling it as old paradigm, we're not realizing that the program that we are embodying in that moment, the perception in which we are observing that very thought that we are judging, is old paradigm. So we're tricking ourselves into throwing out ancient wisdom that actually is timeless wisdom. It's wisdom that can be used throughout the ages. The thing that's changing and must change is us, our perception. We're evolving always. That's the only difference. So we don't need to so dramatically resist any information or so dramatically accept it. We can just remain centered and observe, letting things pass through us. And as they pass through, we can say, beyond the words of what's being said, when I look at my reflection as I'm taking that in, when I remain the observer behind my thoughts and I see and feel my response to such information or such wisdom, what do I feel? What is my perspective on it? Because the thing that's being said could be old paradigm information, but if you remain present rather than using that presence, that energy to dismiss and judge the thing, instead we can remain in our power, remain present and say, oh wow, that's so interesting. Although I don't agree with that old paradigm belief, in me hearing it right now in this moment, I'm hearing it from a new perspective, and I'm considering the multidimensionality of those words, and I'm seeing how its opposite is actually really true. So the truth was hiding inside of it in that case. Okay, so it's like accessing the awareness of the law of polarity and using that to your advantage to, in a way that you squeeze the wisdom out of everything because it's there, because the truth is inside all things, even when it doesn't look like it on this physical plane. In that way, we don't reject or accept something so readily. We just remain present and use that information to come back to the truth. So then what happens is that moment, that experience that we took, that journey from receiving that truth to bringing it back to the one, that moment right there in between is what offers realization or the truth to be revealed. It's not so much about what's being said, it's how we're receiving it and what we're doing with it. And so this is a big theme right now, you guys, because in a world where we're so confused and I don't know which system to follow, I don't know, what person to listen to, you don't have to follow any system, and you don't have to reject any system either. You are so complete. You are a microcosmic completion in reflection of the realest one, the original one. You don't need anything. But we also don't need to reject things. We don't have to be one way or the other. So in this confusing world where we don't know which way to turn, it only makes sense that we would look within, that we would turn to ourselves and our own reflections. What's inside? In that way, whenever information comes up, whether it was, old paradigm or it's futuristic or it's this or that, we extract what is timeless inside of it, the truth, as it is relevant to the here and now. It doesn't matter then if it was a part of this system or this religion, or if this person said it, or if mostly men do this, or if mostly women do this, or that's for a baby. It literally doesn't even matter. An onomatopoeia, is something that can lead you to a grand realization. It's all about your perspective. Babies understand onomatopoeias. Boom! And the way a baby perceives that sound and the way you perceive that sound are totally different. And the way everybody perceives that sound is different. Therefore, worlds and infinite worlds of thought are born upon the reflection of that simple onomatopoeia. You know what I'm saying? So everything then, even beyond words, the sounds of nature, any vibration, even the ones that are seemingly inaudible, you know, finer frequencies, everything becomes a reflection of the one. And everything becomes material to perpetuate our enlightenment, to deepen our self-understanding. Everything becomes fair game because we see the truth in all things, even if it means having to pause, reflect, and take whatever is coming at you in its opposite form. It's how we see our reality. That is it. So we can't be fooled by, you know, oh, we have to be on this side or that. You don't have to be old paradigm, and you don't have to be new age. You are timeless, baby. You are a light that is not the light that you see in this reality, not even the light of just a fire. You are that too. You are the flame too. But the light that is in you is beyond time and space. It's a light that is so precious. So you don't need to put it into a category. You don't need to, you can put down that desire to want to belong. You so belong. You so belong. You are a child of the earth, and you are also a child of the sky. You more than belong. You belong here, now, multidimensionally, and you have so much purpose. When you remember that, it helps to not feel like we have to classify ourselves as this or that, or judge ourselves, or put a name on it, or, well, I have to be a part of this group or that group. And I'll tell you, there's a lot of pressure left and right to help us sink into that distraction and that, you know, that dark space of feeling alone, and like we have to keep searching for a place to fit in when we already do. There is so much of that going on already, that separation and people creating cliques and groups, and that would all be fine if it wasn't coming from a space of separation, if the intention, you know, wasn't coming from a place of feeling incomplete, because anything that's born of that space, anything that manifests from there is not going to be sustainable. It's not going to be a sustainable design. So when we start, you know, making more and more groups out of, you know, simply the desire to just unify all of them, to find the unifying factor in all the groups, to say, hey, you can be a part of this group and that group because they coexist. When we can do that, then we'll be in a different world. Then we'll be in a different world. But right now, what we need to remember as we move through this paradoxical parade of life, we need to remember that we already know the truth and it's inside. We don't need to reject any information, nor do we need to accept it deeply. We can observe everything with fullest confidence that we will only continue to feed any piece of information or any idea or belief that really resonates with our heart. So breathe it in, breathe it all in, breathe in all the details of your reality. Don't be so quick to judge, because yeah, what meets the eye might not be something you like to look at, but when you look at it and then through it, you might find something totally different. So don't feel like you need to be a part of the old paradigm, and don't feel like you need to be a part of the new age, and don't feel like you need to be struggling, like being pulled between the two and your arms being ripped off and it's like this crazy tug of war. You can be confident in that center. You don't need to feel trapped or controlled by the endless pull. It appears endless, but when you tune into your center, there's a liberation that happens from the inside out. This is the only way to sustainably set yourself free or break the chains. It's from the inside out. And there will always be systems or loopholes that the government or this person or that person or your sister or your brother or anybody outside of you, seemingly outside of you, is trying to get you to fall into. There will always be these darker programs, whatever. Actually, I don't want to say that. There won't always be, because everything is evolving, you know. But right now there are those confusing things. So we need to break free from the inside out so that we can not only be comfortable in the center in our own reality, but reflect that to other people, so that ultimately we become the bridge. So we're not struggling to hold them together, but we naturally just do. We become a light of inspiration for other people to embody that unity consciousness. So again, you are you, beautiful and new in each moment. You don't need to define yourself as left side or right side or this or that, old age, new age. You are timeless. All timelines are available right here, right now, the space in your mind, when you close your eyes and you tune into that inner eye, the space to create is infinite. All things already exist there. Remember that. Because when we start to identify with the new age only, okay, or we identify too much with, oh, the past was the good old days, anything like this is a sign that we're not being present. We're living in the future, or we're living in the past, and we're not being present. Not to say that the past doesn't have its beauty. Of course, the wisdom of our ancestors, but it's alive right now in us. So while we're so busy admiring it and even fighting for it, we're giving up our power to it even. Do you think that's what the past would like for us to do here now? Do you think that's why our ancestors would be coming back and reincarnating in these bodies so that we could just sit there and like kill each other over defending the past? No, absolutely not. And living in the future as well. I'm a part of the new age and I'm rejecting everything that is old paradigm. Well, we have to be really careful what we judge as old paradigm because it's getting really tricky. It's tricky territory when we step into the area of the science of the mind and the study of the self. It can get very paradoxical. So while we think that we're being all righteous by dismissing or not looking at certain seemingly old paradigm programs, we're not allowing ourselves the space and opportunity to respond to the old in a new way. We're actually embodying the old paradigm. Rather, when we are not so quick to dismiss it, we maintain our presence, and then we're making the most of that moment. We're showing up. And we're saying, I'm not just going to dismiss it, I'm going to respond to it, because our response is everything. Our response, our action is when the opportunity is there for us to really make a change. Every time we just dismiss the old paradigm, dismiss it, we're not offering ourselves an opportunity to really reflect and allow our imagination to manifest a new creation, to conceive of new ideas about the past. You can keep dismissing it, but then you're denying yourself that opportunity to play and see everything in a new way. That's how the alchemy is done. We're taking the old and we're not just throwing it in the garbage. We're saying, how can I recycle this? How can I redesign this in such a way that I make it work for the one? Everything is inspiration for the future. Everything is. Even things that are, seemingly like a wasteful matter, like, recycled materials or like scraps of materials and things like this. You've seen what the brilliant minds of this earth have done with such materials. We can make beauty out of garbage. I once saw a documentary where a very poor group of children in a third world country made an entire band. They formed a band and they made their own instruments out of garbage. It was incredible. It was so moving. And I know that there are so many beautiful, creative, intelligent beings out there. Let's not just dismiss anything. Let's just consider everything, because we have nothing to lose so long as we remember only that which we continuously give our power to. That which we hang on to is what will grow. Okay? It's very true. So we have nothing to lose in simply considering the advice or wisdom of others. We shouldn't be afraid to look at it. That's another thing. Like, why are we so quickly dismissing it? No matter what, it's just dismissing something is not going to squeeze out its fullest potential. Okay, you're not going to make the most out of that experience. But let's look at that. What are the various reasons that we would so quickly dismiss old paradigm thoughts? Because we just don't want to be a part of the old world. We're in the new age consciousness, or perhaps we say, I don't want to look at that because it's scary. I'm scared of that world. Or like my dad was this way, or my grandfather was this way, or, in that old paradigm world, a lot of like terrible stuff happens and I don't want to look at that. That's another layer to it. Like, we need to look at it. It is there. And we needn't be scared. On the contrary, we should be so excited to have all this material matter to work with and transform. We got to start with something. And that's the way to really build in the most efficient way as a collective consciousness, because we don't want to have any waste. We want to use every little bit of energy in all dimensions for the mission, right? We want to do the most with the least amount. So we want to utilize all of our resources before we start, taking more from the earth. There's already so much there. We don't even need to take from her because we've created so many new inventions that only went wrong because we didn't use them in alignment, with the earth or with nature. So we can revisit those old paradigm ideas and just modify them. Where did things go wrong? How can I see this in a new perspective and be the change through the old paradigm? New worlds aren't just born. They just don't pop out in front of your eyes. The way they're born is from the inside out. Our consciousness projects a new reality, thought by thought, projecting this reality, forming it thought by thought. And that's why it seems so organic. All of a sudden, it's like a new world around me. And so perhaps we need to go right into the muck. And I've made, videos about this from so many different angles. It just feels right from so many different angles that, of course, we must go right into the muck and start there. We have to build from the bottom up. There's nowhere to just brush this away to, okay? It's there. So we may as well use it to fuel the fire. So as we're going through this, developing a new perspective to finally reprogram our minds in a way that is sustainable, we're coming to a specific lesson I'm seeing coming up collectively. I did a bunch of readings in the last couple days, and it was always leading back to the same message, and I definitely resonate with this, that convenience is key, but not in the way that we think. Because when we think convenience is key, we think of time. But what time? The time according to a human perspective and the time that we formed around our own lives, or universal time, or, universal law. Okay? That's the kind of convenience I'm talking about. Like what I just said a second ago. We use whatever's there and transform it before we take more resources. We want to use what we got. We want to be efficient. That is convenience in its highest light. When something is convenient for everyone's highest good, that is real convenience. Because if it's convenient for you at the expense of someone else, it's certainly not really truly convenient. We have to consider what that word really means. What is good for everybody? Is it convenient for everybody or just me? Because if it's going to hurt somebody else, then it's hurting me for real. And this is a big test that we're having right now as we cross over this bridge of the Hierophant and learn how to really get in tune with our own truth so that we see the truth in all things. No matter, what the judgments anyone are putting on it, it's your perspective that becomes the key. Okay, as we do that, this is the current lesson right now. The collective theme that I'm seeing is remember what real convenience is. A lot of us have been seeing opportunities popping up that look really convenient and great. Like, here, you can just have this whole thing handed to you just like you want it. And it seems too easy. Like, could this really be? Like, it's just that easy? And then when we start to explore the opportunity and we really look at that and say, wow, look what I manifested. A lot of us are coming to this point of like, but is that really what I want? Like now that it's becoming so real and it's also so easily and gracefully being handed to me, do I really want it? I'm not sure now that that's what I actually want. So a reevaluation is happening. We're not sure that what we wanted is what we really want now that it's coming to us so easily. Don't say yes to something just because it's being handed to you. The least that we can do in this time is really look at the situation and just simply revisit. Remember your original intentions. Remember why you were asking for this thing that you're now manifesting and receiving. See yourself, project yourself into the future in your mind's eye, and see yourself receiving that gift and having the experience that you wanted this whole time. What does that feel like? Do you honestly feel fulfilled? Because if you don't, it's okay. That's actually really normal and happens all the time. Life tests us in this way over and over because we're constantly growing and shifting and changing. And life wants us to be authentic and wants us to be in our integrity and wants us to constantly check in with ourselves to make sure that when that thing arrives that we wanted, we have to make sure it's what we still want. Because maybe we don't want it anymore. Because maybe we've changed. And so life is testing us like you say you've changed. You say you've gone through this metamorphosis. Well, I'm going to give you that thing that you asked for before you changed. And I'm going to see if you'll accept it. This is you. It's just you talking to yourself. There's no man up there testing you. Again, like, I'm sure you all know this by now because this community of people is already there. You get it, okay? You did this. You did this. So when you get that thing that you've been working to manifest, if you've already changed and that thing is not necessarily in your highest, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how much you've arranged your life around this plan. It doesn't matter how many people you told about it or how many people you feel like you need to prove to them, like you did this, you're gonna do it. None of that matters. You gotta release the pressure. No matter what you have to follow your heart, you're going to anyway. So because you're gonna end up miserable and you're gonna end up having to leave that situation and it'll be more materialistically entangled by then. So you think it's hard now to say no to something? Later it will be even harder if you said no to something that wasn't coming from your authentic self. We are changing. Honor that first. Honor that first. Just because something is convenient doesn't mean it's for you. I'm not saying that we need to expect everything should be a challenge either. No, those are two sides of the same coin. It's both, you're on the opposite sides of the pendulum. We want to stay in the center. And we want to stay in our hearts. And sometimes we will manifest, an experience in a very graceful manner. We're constantly manifesting everything all around us. We are magicians. But a lot of times, that convenience is only manifesting so that we can take a second look, so that we can take a closer look. Not to say, oh, life is too good, this must not be real. Of course it is. That's not the point. You should already know that. When you're looking at that thing and you say, wow, that's really convenient, I should probably take it. Well, really consider, what does it look like when you say yes and when you're in it? Because sometimes things appear convenient, but that doesn't mean they're fulfilling. We can go down any road we want in life. We can take any path we wish in life. We pave the way. You pave the way. So when you come to those crossroads, well, should I go this way or that way? Even if you've been planning to go this way and you arrive there, you don't have to go this way. You can go that way or that way or that way, that way, that way. You're never stuck. The only person keeping yourself stuck, the only person limiting you is yourself. We can't hold on to everybody's opinion and to, obviously consider everything. It's all perspective. But we can't hold on to the opinion of others when our heart is telling us the way to go. Ultimately, they don't know. Your perspective is what matters, even when you're receiving good advice. It's what you do with it that matters. It's all up to you. So you can't allow, the stress or anxiety about what other people might think to affect which path you're going to choose. Hopefully by the time you get to that crossroads, you'll have developed your intuition so much that you don't stop for a second. You know immediately which way to go. Even if you were thinking you were going to go the other way all along. You'll have developed your intuition to a point where no matter what crossroads you come to in this life, even in another dimension, not just this physical one, I'm saying if you come to an emotional crossroads or a mental crossroads, if you do this work, you will have developed your intuition enough to a point where you do not hesitate. You don't have doubt. That doubt doesn't hold you back. Okay, yeah, we're constantly reevaluating things because we're always changing and our truth has to evolve with us. But at the same time, when you know, you know. When you know, you know. You don't need to sit on decisions forever. There's, to evaluate is one thing, but to reevaluate and reevaluate and reevaluate and when are you going to actually then make the decision? I mean, there comes a time to decide. So right now, looking at yesterday's reading, while we're still crossing the bridge, the Hierophant, and coming up to this point in the near future where we're going to have to make a big decision. So this is always happening to us, but we're coming to a pinnacle where we're going to have to make a big decision. And this is a collective energy. So before we get to that point, let us prepare. Let us deepen our intuition. Let us cultivate a strong connection to our heart center so that we can smell bullshit along the way. And so that we don't have to, so that we can make this journey as graceful and swift as possible. So that we don't need to make it such a difficult path to get to that road, which is just going to be another crossroads, because that's always what it is. We can do the work right now to get in touch with our intuition so that whenever we come to these points in life, we can say, when I consider the one, and when I think of everything as one, which decision is for the highest good of that one, because you pave the way, and any of them will lead to the one, because all paths do. So essentially you can choose any of those paths. But be honest with yourself when you close your eyes and you are seeing from your mind's eye, your real eye, outside of space and time, and you picture yourself going down each of those roads. I want you to remember that that is what it will be. There's no, well, maybe it could be like this. Well, this might go this way. No. Don't give up your power. No. Because ultimately that is the seed of any of those roads. When you have that first vision of that path, you're already paving the way right there. You're already conceiving of what it's going to become, of the manifestation. You do know what it's going to look like going that way. You do know what it's going to look like if you go that way. You do know what any of the paths are going to look like if you take them, because it has not been written yet. You're writing it as you go. So don't so quickly, allow doubt to creep in right then and there. As soon as you approach the crossroads, you're stunned by fear and you're so overwhelmed like a deer in headlights that you end up not even choosing. You just sit there like a baby and cry, or you call up a friend to tell you which path to take, like they're going to know any better than you. Ridiculous. That's not possible. Impossible. You have to make the decision for yourself. And if you want to make the one that is for the highest good of the one, the very first step is don't give up your power thinking that you don't know what this road is going to look like or that. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. It is up to you. So see all of those paths at the crossroad. And then ultimately feel into which one feels the best when you're in your mind's eye and you're visualizing what each of those journeys looks like. Which one feels good to try on? That's a good sign. That's a good sign, because if it feels good, your heart is activated. And all this work that you're doing right now to cultivate a connection to your heart, all this work you're doing will pay off, because it will add to the sensitivity of your heart in that moment. And you will know, because the feeling will be undeniable. So remember, it's not what it looks like on the outside. There are many beings all over the place, who would love for you to take their way and their path. The old paradigm is pulling you this way, and the new age is pulling you this way. But you don't need to choose a side. You need to let go and be in your center, and from there have an influence that will unify all of those groups back together as one. And remember, as we do this right now, the message that is coming through for the collective is convenience is not always the key. Sometimes we will manifest something that will be very convenient, or sometimes we will manifest something very difficult. It's not about getting lost in how convenient or how difficult it is. Don't allow that to be a factor in your choosing. Do what you know is right. Don't be afraid to take the first step just because you anticipate challenges. Why are you even anticipating? Why are you even thinking about a challenge before you take the damn first step? Why do you care? It doesn't matter. That's not the question. It's not the question. What needs to be done? What is right? What is right does not involve how challenging or how easy it will be. That is irrelevant. It actually becomes a distraction, especially before you even take the first step. We haven't even come to that point of making of a crossroads yet. There's no decision to be made. We don't know what the question is yet. We're already creating fears for ourselves. So how do I know which way to go? It doesn't matter. This is a big message in the Fool card in Tarot as well. It's the 0 card, or sometimes it's shown as 0, but back in the day it wouldn't even have a number, because it can be placed with any card in the deck at any part of the deck. This is because this message is the one that should always be at the forefront of our minds, the Fool card. Saying that I trust in new beginnings. Because in the beginning, the end is implicit, and so is the middle. Everything exists there. So it'd be foolish for me to limit myself from this experience, to not access the joy and the adventure of this life experience, because I'm too afraid to take the first step, because I see mountains in the distance, and those are going to be hard to climb. Okay, so just sit there. Okay, so just sit there. Do you feel fulfilled? No. Sometimes along the road of life, things will be convenient, and other times they won't. And sometimes when they're convenient, they're actually not convenient for everybody as one. So you got to look a little bit closer. When something's convenient, just double check. Make sure that it's for everybody. It's for the highest good. That you're not just giving your power away to something because it's convenient. Do not make decisions solely based on how convenient it is. So as we approach this crossroads, may we remember that it's just the beginning. And we're going to always come to these crossroads again and again, multidimensionally, emotionally, physically, mentally. But how gracefully we move through them is everything. Because it's a reflection of our self-doubt or our self-love. It's a reflection of our faith or our lack thereof. That moment at the crossroads is such a powerful moment, an opportunity to reflect in a unique way, to really see where you stand, what you stand by, what you stand for, and how that's reflected, how all of that is reflected into the decision that you make, and then a blueprint for the journey down that very road. It all begins there. It's the seed of that whole journey. That's where we write the story. It's not already written. You're writing it as you go, so there's nothing to fear. But when we come to those points, the greatest thing that happens is actually not even in the physical dimension. It's actually not in which path we literally physically step onto, or, what relationship we say yes to or let go of, or, what job we take on, or what contracts we sign. Those are only the outermost details and manifestations of something really deep happening inside, a transformation. And so it helps us to relax a little bit about the physical details of it and just kind of tune in and say, what is this showing me about myself right now? What are my decisions reflecting about my beliefs and about my integrity and my authenticity and my ability to serve the one? And in that reflection, if we can remain open and receptive, not judging ourselves, but looking, listening, seeing, perceiving a truthful reflection of ourselves, then before we take the first step, we'll gain some really powerful wisdom just by doing that self-reflection in that moment, at the crossroads, before we choose. That moment alone is so valuable, because when we connect to ourselves and we see our reflection there, we can then take a step in the direction that is going to be a reflection of our most truthful self. We can say, I feel confident now. I feel ready to make the best decision for the one, because first I had to find it in myself. Now that I'm being faced with all these decisions, it really showed me about myself and what really matters to me. And because I'm in touch with that center now I can make the right decision. I trust that I will make the right decision. And each time we approach these crossroads, the more we access the wisdom that is there, like I said, the more graceful it will be. The longer it takes us to go through that process at the crossroads, time is an illusion. So what's really happening there, that length is revealing, that length of time before you're able to make your step, before you decide, is revealing how in touch with your truth you are. Because once you put the information up to your truth or your belief that everything is one, you'll quickly have your answer. So the longer it takes to get you back to that truth is, reflecting the amount of work that you've done up until that point. So how can we prepare now so that the truth is recognizable when we get to that point, so that we don't even need to hesitate? So it's like seamless. It's like we're moving through a reality with all these twisty turns and crisscrosses, and we're just we're like, oh, I know. We don't even need to stop to think for a moment. We just know which way to go. We're just flowing, riding that wave. We're being attracted. We're being magnetized by a frequency that is aligned to us. And as we have already aligned it, through our hearts to the heart of the one, wherever we go, we'll be in reflection of not only our vibration, our frequency, but the frequency of the one. And so we don't even need to stop to think. We feel it. We're pulled. The more we develop this, the more magical it becomes. It's taken completely out of the ego mind at a certain point. We transcend the ego mind, and it's a feeling. The waters of our body are pulled. They're literally pulled by the waters of I don't even know, the waters of spirit, the mother, the intuition, you know, it's like your body becomes this magnet for that divine resonance. And you don't have to think. But we're still in our heads right now, and we're still here, and we're in this part of our, our awakening as a collective. And so we do need to use what we've got to get to where we want to go. And so our heads are still in the game, you know? And so how can we allow that to work for us? How can we allow the ego mind to serve spirit? This is the key, you know? We have to be really sure of where our truth lies, and that's in the heart. And like I said, the deeper you develop that intuition, the more the universe will guide you, the more you'll just flow like that water, the more it's just out of your head and directly from your heart. It's more and more graceful, more and more supported by the universe, because the universe supports itself. So if you align with that frequency of the one, you will be supported by the one, which is the greatest power. It just becomes more and more effortless. Like in the Tao is the concept, the Wu Wei. This is effortless effort. This concept is reflected in all different, ancient traditions, ancient cultures. The universe is a field that we can allow to support us. We can receive its support and allow it to carry us. And then we meet it by doing, what we need to do, which is a much smaller fraction than what it does for us. We only need to do a very little bit, and the universe does the rest, but we don't allow for that support. We so often resist it and make it harder for ourselves. We don't have to do that. And the more we connect to our heart and our intuition, the more we will be carried by the field, by the force, by the forces of the Great Mother and the Great Father. And then we won't need to try so hard. And we won't need to keep reprogramming and reprogramming. Yeah, we will keep reprogramming and adapting, but not just in the mind. We will evolve in other ways. We won't need to always worry about this thing. We'll have aligned it in a way where then other parts of our consciousness or other centers, think of the chakras, for example, other sections will need our awareness. And so we'll redistribute our energies. We're not always going to be stuck in our heads, you guys. Thank goodness. So this is how we get there. This is how we get there. Let's get in touch with that heart compass so that when we inevitably come to these crossroads, it's seamless. People will look at you and say, how the hell did she just know which way to go so effortlessly? And oftentimes, when you know which way to go, it means without doubt leaving behind something maybe that you've been working on for years. You could have been cultivating an energy or working on a project for years and years and years, but because of your faith and your trust, you're led onto a path that no longer needs that project, that makes that project irrelevant. And it doesn't sway your decision at all, because the way is the way. Again, no matter how much we feel we need to sacrifice. I mean, we could sit there and think about all the things that we need to sacrifice, but every second we sit there doing that is a second we're pulling away from the thing, So, we need to be able to let go. And so people are going to see you doing that. They're going to see you making sacrifices, not because you're like, look at me making sacrifices. No, because the sacrifices, in your humility and in your faith, the sacrifices just become a byproduct. And then people see like, wow, how did you so easily let that go? How did you just know in your heart so strongly that was the way, even though so many other things contradicted that. And even though your dad told you you'd be a failure, or your mom didn't support you, or even though you were working on this project for so many years, how do you just throw all that out? And then you just say to them, because all this stuff is impermanent, and whatever work was done behind it is the real work. Whatever my perspective developed over the time that I was working on this thing, it's what's in there that counts. The growth that has happened along the way. And that can never be left behind. There is no behind. In the space where we really travel home to, it's beyond space and time. That stuff, that growth goes with you. You can't leave it behind. It's a part of you. And that's what you tell them. That's how I can do it. Because I know all that's real goes with me beyond this life, beyond this body. And so I have nothing to fear. I don't have to fear letting it go. I'm not going to limit myself. I'm not going to deny this amazing gift of change and growth simply because I'm comfortable and I want to hold on to this thing that I've been doing forever. It doesn't matter if you've been doing that thing forever or for a day or for a week or a few months. It doesn't matter. Time doesn't matter. The thing is either in alignment with your truth here now or it's not. When you really have that faith, again, it will look like you're making these huge sacrifices, and you are. But for you, you're not coming from that perspective as seeing it really as the sacrifice so much as you're seeing it as a whole new exciting beginning and growth and change and a new project. That's the difference. It's all perspective. And then everybody will start to do it. They'll all say, oh, I see what really matters now. What really matters now is staying centered and aligned with my truth. And as I grow, realigning myself with my truth. And therefore eliminating things constantly that can't keep up. And we're just going to be doing this effortlessly as we support each other more and more through this process, as we acknowledge that each other is doing this. The more we give this attention, the more we tell each other about its power, the more it's going to happen, the more we're going to inspire each other and grow this energy and really shift this reality. Anyway, that was a lot more than I came in here to say. It's time to light the Shabbat candles. So if anybody's interested in lighting the candles, or obviously I'm going to do it, but if anybody's interested in joining on the webcam here, let me know, and I'll go live for the blessing, for the prayer. You light Shabbos candles 18 minutes before sundown, so it's just about time now. I'm outside of the house, so I'm going to head in there. And then if you guys are interested, I will have you join me for the candle lighting. And if you don't join me, or if I end up not even doing that, remember this, that Shabbat is a ritual every week that is done as a special day. We're setting aside a special day to pray for and envision the world's uniting as one. What do I mean by that? Well, this applies to everybody. It's not just for Jewish people or for Christians or for Muslims. It's for everybody. We are all living in a reality of polarity within and without. We have masculine energies and feminine energies in us, and so the concept of uniting the worlds is very relevant and very elevating, very fulfilling. Especially using fire, candles, the element of fire, spirit, so special. And I cover my eyes. We cover our eyes when we light the candles. So you quickly light them and you don't look at them. You just cover your eyes right away. And you say the blessing. And when you lift the veil, you see that light as really one light. You see that as a symbol of the unification of the worlds. And that light fills the room. And the more you do this ritual, however you want to, just like any other ritual, over time, that meaning that it develops, it also cultivates that love inside of your heart and that feeling that goes with that meaning to you. And so I believe that it then becomes healing for everybody because you're using that powerful emotion and feeling to feed this concept of the unification of the worlds. And thank you if you do that, because that helps me too. That helps the one. And that is a very high service. And this is why the Sabbath or Shabbos has been spoken about from the beginning of time, because it's a ritual of a concept that should always be at the forefront of our minds, unifying the worlds. Yet it's a whole day out of the week that we do it. So it's like an extra special ritual. While we do it in all moments, we're always considering oneness. There is that one day out of the week that we dedicate for the holiest thing, to see the unification of the worlds within and without. It's very powerful. It's a living ritual. This whole life really is. So what are we doing with it? Thanks for tuning in. Shabbat Shalom. I'll see you guys soon.